What's up, art fiends? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be continuing on a trend that kind of helped me blow up a bit here on YouTube. I'm going to be redesigning some more old OCs. This time, however, I am not picking from the same batch as the last set of videos. Today, I'm going to be specifically redesigning my Danganronpa OCs that I made back in 2013 when I first got into the Danganronpa series. For those of you who don't know the timeline of Danganronpa's rise to popularity here in the West, in 2013, the infamous webcomic that is Homestuck went on a hiatus. And during that time, all of the fans of Homestuck needed something else to fixate on while Homestuck was not updating. In comes two franchises, one that has risen in the ranks of popularity even to this day, and another that has become so niche that very few people know it exists who are under the age of 15. The niche one was the game Off, and the popular one was the franchise of games Danganronpa. However, in 2013, there was no English translation for Danganronpa. So the way you could take in this game was by reading fan translations of the Japanese video game that were typed out on Google Documents, and you had to read like a book. Every now and then there was a screenshot of the icons of the characters, and then all of the trials had videos that you could watch that were all in the Japanese and had English subtitles. Now there is a full English translation for all three of the Danganronpa games that are available to play on Steam and are very accessible here in the West. But 7 years ago, that did not exist. Also in 2013, only first game and the second game existed. There was no third game, there was no Despair Girls, there was no anime, just games 1 and 2. So now that you can understand what it was like to be a Danganronpa fan in 2013, let's go talk about my fan characters. First off, I barely drew these characters, which is kind of sad because after redesigning them, I kind of really like some of them, and I really wish I kind of did something more with these characters. I think there was a point where I tried to transform them into other things, like I renamed all of them, I reclothed them all, I put them in a new universe, but that also led nowhere. I didn't continue that story. I think I never continued that story because it had to do with like angels and saving people, so I was using like real biblical stuff, and I've never read a word of the Bible in my life. My understanding came from Google searches that just confused the hell out of me, so I just scrapped the idea for that comic immediately, and these characters unfortunately just kind of fell away and were never seen of again until today. There's actually only one set of drawings of each of these characters I have that are digitized. I have a bunch of sketches of them in a very old sketchpad, but the digital illustrations of them I have don't exist. I barely drew them. However, there's one drawing I do have all of them has every character, so it's a good reference point for me to start on seeing how the outfits looked and the color choices I was making. I also have sketchpad drawings of all of them where I colored them in with colored pencils. That also helps too, because in the sketchpad I also wrote a whole bunch of little notes about the characters that also really helps me remember who they are, because my digital drawing said nothing about them. So I'm going to be splitting this up into 4 videos. There will be 4 characters in every video, and then the last video will have 5 characters since there is an odd number. So here in part 1, we're going to be redesigning these first 4 characters. This group includes the ultimate activist, the ultimate physicist, the ultimate race car driver, and the ultimate skateboarder. So something I thought that could be really fun with this series was, instead of just drawing them in my normal everyday style, is that I could create talk sprites in the Danganronpa style for all of these characters. Just gonna do one talk sprite, just the basic standing pose. I'm not gonna be trying with 5 million different emotions. But I thought this would be fun, not only to really push that these are Danganronpa characters, but hopefully with making them into sprites, it'll also help me add more stuff onto the characters that make them more Danganronpa-like. Sometimes when you just draw something in your own style and you don't try to take in what you're referencing, some of the little fine details of what makes the characters in a series fit that series get lost. So I thought it'd be a good idea to just go for it and make some sprites. The process order on this is look at the old drawing, make a sketch in my style of a redesign for this character, and then create a talk sprite in full color of said character. Alright, well let's just go right into the first one then, shall we? Okay, so first up on the list is the ultimate activist. So something I actually like that I wrote down on some of these notes is I wrote down the nationality of each of these characters. I guess I just didn't want it to take place in Japan. So a lot of these characters aren't Japanese. There are a few thrown in there, but it's a good even split between Japanese and then any other country besides Japan, which I will say is a one-up on my other OCs in my other redesign video, were OCs from when I was much younger than these were made, and they were all Japanese with badly translated Japanese names. So here, at least, I changed things up a little bit. So this character, her name is Siobhan Conroy, and she was Irish. I had a lot of the same outfit ideas for a lot of these characters. They're just in like a shirt and a tie, since that's a very common look for Danganronpa characters. However, I think the Danganronpa design goes farther than just shirt and tie. They're in school uniforms, a lot of them, but some of them accessorize, or they have like a very specific look to their outfit that goes a little farther. Some have jackets, some don't. So in these redesigns, I really wanted to go farther than just shirt and tie. So with Siobhan, she has a very stern personality. She's an activist, so she's always out there fighting the fight. I decided to give her a jacket over the shirt and tie. So she still has the shirt and tie, and then she has her skirt like she did before. I wanted her to look very authoritative, as if she was, gonna go talk to some council members and tell them what they're doing wrong. I also added some accessories by giving her a bunch of buttons. They are all gonna have different symbols on them that are kind of implied causes that she's fighting for. And I also gave her an armband, kind of like the student council thing, because I definitely see her as kind of this student council, like authoritative hall monitor type character. Now for her hair, I kept her bangs very close to the original with the across cut on top and then the side coming down. However, I decided to not give her the long down hair like before. When looking at activism pictures, a lot of the women put their hair up because, they're marching outside and they're out fighting the fight. They're putting their hair up so it's out of the way when they're out there marching or giving a speech or whatever. So I liked the idea of giving her a pulled up hairdo instead. However, I did also continue to keep her hair long like before, just it's pulled up instead of just down now. I also added a little bow in her hair just to kind of add something more to the hair look, so it's not just up in a ponytail. A lot of Danganronpa characters with ponytails or pigtails or whatever have clips or bows or hair ties that are very obviously seen, so adding just something else there like a bow really helped to push her into the Danganronpa design look. Okay, so now it was time to start on the sprite. For her, I used Mahiru as the base, since they have very similar hairstyle and the outfit also had a very similar look, and her expression also really fit Siobhan really well as well. So the way I kind of do these sprite edits is I put the real sprite from the game below on lower opacity, and then I sketch over that all of the changes I want to be making. So the new hairstyle, the clothes that I'm adding, all of the little things that are going to change when it becomes my character and not the old character. I then take this very thin brush for line art to kind of match the line look of Danganronpa, and I begin by doing direct traces over the sprite that are going to be exactly the same. So here the things I didn't change were the face shape, the eye shape, and then the collared shirt and the tie. There are some characters I have where I change the eye shape on the character, or I don't give them the collared look at all and they have a different kind of shirt on. But for here, those were the things that stayed the same, so those are the things I directly traced. And then for all the additions I made, I kind of just winged it. I still had the reference underneath it to kind of get the idea of where some of the folds on the body would be, but a lot of the stuff that were like hanging off the body, such as the armband and the hair tie and, you know, her hair in general, you know, it's all just kind of like guessing at what I think this would look like if drawn like the sprite is. And then once the whole thing is lined out, I then make a shape underneath in a color so I can then fill her in, and then I just start coloring her in. For her palette, I first drew out her old palette, and it's very bright. A lot of my color palettes from these old characters are just the brightest colors imaginable, and they are just terrible to look at, and they are terrible when put next to each other. They clash because they're so bright. So a big thing was I wanted to keep the color palette similar. Every character had a specific color that was assigned to them. Siobhan's color was red, so I wanted to make sure I kept red on her. So her hair had to stay red, had to keep that look, but I also then made her jacket this like dark red color as well. And to keep her close to the original, I kept her tie blue, but I really lightened it up a lot. Her eyes as well were blue, but I darkened them. They were like the most brightest blue on the color wheel before, so darkening them really helped. Danganronpa eye colors as well. They never really have super bright colors. They're kind of all very muted. The hair colors can be crazy, but even if like someone has pink eyes, it's not a bright pink. It's kind of a muted pink. For shading, I did my very best to get it to match the Danganronpa shading. The technique that I kind of came up with was to pick just a color that's just a little bit darker than the base color and use that as the shading. It's actually very subtle, the shading on Danganronpa, so it's not like I had to do a crazy lot. There's also a very bright spot on the hair on all these sprites as well, so I had to make sure I got that in. When it came to the clothes, I actually just kept looking at the original sprite to see how that was shaded in, and then I just did my very best to try and match my specific shades and where they're located to the original sprites. This was the very first one I did in the bunch, so there are a few issues with making it look exactly like a Danganronpa sprite, but I think for my first attempt at it, this was really good. And you know, Siobhan looks really great in her new design. She definitely says activist now, especially with all those buttons on her. Alright, up next on our list of Danganronpa characters is the ultimate physicist. This guy is Japanese, and his name is Yamato Ikeda. So his original design, again, is very simple, but when it came to redesigning, I actually didn't really change a whole lot from his original design. I think it's because when applying his design to the Danganronpa style, it kind of actually worked pretty well, especially since he's a physicist. The big thing is that he was wearing a very long lab coat, which I didn't want to get rid of. I thought that was such a specific thing for him. So I totally kept his crazy long lab coat. And I also just kept his shirt and his tie too, because I didn't really see a problem with it. The biggest difference, I think, is his hairstyle. My old way of drawing, I wasn't very good at hair. A lot of it just kind of was weird and spiky and just didn't really look like hair. I don't know how to explain it. For him, his bangs were just so weird looking, and I couldn't really figure out what I was trying to go for with his hairstyle. So I did my best to kind of interpret his hairstyle in a new way. I decided to give him like gelled side swept hair. This character's super serious and very much into his work, so to me that hairstyle really fit his personality. It makes him seem proper and well groomed and very serious because it's very short cut. I also kept his glasses because, you know, he's a science guy, so why not give him glasses? And honestly, like I said, the changes were really just kind of interpreting it into the Danganronpa style from here. I did decide to change the tie look. Instead of a pointed tie, I went for that square bottom that some of the characters have. I just thought that would be a little bit of something I could add to change him up. So for his sprite, I used Togami as his base. In my brain, I think their personalities are just the same. And Togami also has glasses, so it was perfect because I could just use Togami's glasses as the base for Yamato's glasses. Glasses are hard to draw, especially when you're trying to copy a style. Artists have such specific ways that they all draw glasses that I think it's the hardest thing thing to copy if you're not like directly referencing some drawing with glasses from said artist. So using Togami made a lot of sense, not just because of the personality, but also for the face as well. For his outfit too, Togami's outfit worked really well. I just kind of scrapped some of the fine details on his outfit so it could be more lab coat-like than suit-like. And his hair isn't as long as Togami's is, so I had to give him short hair and not as such a spiky look going on as well. So again, I did the tracing thing on the face and as well as on the clothes on the body. I then had to add the tie-in and the coat. I had to just make sure it looked long like a lab coat, and then his hair was just kind of up to me to kind of interpret as well as I could. I did end up adding an extra hair swoop just because the art style for Danganronpa is so different than my art style that the only way I could make his hair fit on his face was to add another swoop. On this go around, I actually noticed something in the sprites that I didn't notice in the last one, and I don't know if this is because they stopped doing it in the second game, but at least in the first game sprites, all of the skin on the character drawings have a very subtle gradient to them. And I thought that this was just something so specific that I noticed that if I added it to my characters, it would really help to further push the look of these sprites into Danganronpa territory. So on his skin, I added a little bit of a gradient. All I did was click his original skin I had and just darken it a little bit for the end of the gradient and then drew it on his skin. Otherwise, the rest of it I shaded exactly the same way as before. I actually found a better pen that I had saved for the highlight that just really hit the highlight perfectly to the original design. And something I totally forgot to mention in the first one is the texture. There's also a very subtle texture on every Danganronpa sprite. You can really notice it on the darker colors. So here on Togami's jacket, it's so obvious that there's a texture over it, but on lighter colors, it's really hard to tell. All I did was Google Danganronpa sprite texture and kind of just found the first image. A lot of other people seem to have noticed the texture as well and are looking for a specific texture. So Google helped me out real well there. To apply the texture, I grouped the whole drawing together and then put the image of the texture over the whole thing and clipped it onto the group. I then made it a multiply layer and just lowered it all the way to 10%, and that's all I did. And it looks so much more like the original art style. So for the color differences I made, I didn't really change much. I just kind of desaturated some things. His hair, his skin, his jacket, everything is the same base color. All I did was really de-brighten them so my eyes didn't hurt as much when I looked at them. I also added a very different pattern onto his tie because just splitting it in half like that was just kind of boring. And Danganronpa is very notorious for just having weird patterns on clothing on their characters. Okay, that is it for Yamato. On to our third one. Up next, we have the Ultimate Racer, or Ultimate Race Car Driver. I'm gonna stick with Racer just because it's shorter. This girl right here, her name is Ines Koenig. She was German, so the blonde hair, blue eyes, I guess. Her original outfit, I think I attempted to make it kind of like a tracksuit, but it does not look like a tracksuit. I don't know exactly what it is. I believe she was supposed to be the big boob sports girl of the series, since apparently there's one in every single series of Danganronpa. So I even had her jacket open over her boobs, but like the way I drew it open doesn't actually make sense and her boobs look really bad. The anatomy is terrible on these old drawings. I'm just gonna say it, so I'm sorry in advance. Her waist is just, it doesn't exist. Besides all my terrible anatomy choices, let's forget that and focus on the actual like legit design stuff that I was trying to do. So she was the happy-go-lucky, cool, big boob sports girl for my series I was making. Specifically, she was a race car driver. So in my redesign, I figured if she's going to be a race car driver, she's got to get in one of those track suits, those jumpsuits that they all wear. It just made a lot of sense instead of putting her in some sort of school uniform that just didn't fit her personality or her ultimate. I had to put her into a tracksuit. So I sketched out the full body suit, and I also planned spots for where I was going to put fake advertisements, because if you've ever seen a race car driver, you will know they are decked out top to bottom in ads. Not just their cars, but them themselves are covered in ads. So I knew I had to put ads on her as well. I thought it would just be so funny to just have a walking billboard in this Danganronpa universe. Since I got her outfit down pretty quickly, her hair was the next biggest thing. I worried her hair was very similar to Siobhan's, and I really didn't want them to look the same. I knew that the colors would totally differentiate them, but I wanted the design itself to not match Siobhan's at all. They both have those side bangs going on, and since I made Siobhan have a ponytail and here Ines has a ponytail, I knew I had to do a lot of moving around and changing for her design here. So I went through a bunch of different ideas. I knew I did want her hair to be pulled back in some way. Originally in the old one it was kind of down below, but then it was very thin. So in sprite formation, since she's looking at you, you would not be able to really see this very long, thin ponytail, kind of like a rat's tail if I'm being honest. So I had to totally find a new way that she could have this ponytail, but it be visible in sprite formation. And since she is a race car driver, she wears a helmet all the time when she's driving her car. So I figured her hair couldn't be very high up on her head like Asahina has in the reference I was using. It had to be down below so she could fit a helmet on her head without the helmet digging into her head. Because if you have had long hair before and you've ever pulled it back and then tried to put a helmet on, it is so painful. So I had to have her hair be down below where a helmet would be somehow. So I actually ended up going with kind of like a big spiky look on the bottom. Thought it'd be cool that it like flayed out behind her. And I also didn't give her bangs. I cannot tell you with 100% certainty if her old drawing was supposed to have bangs or pulled back hair. I believe I was going for pulled back hair where you just see the hairline and nothing else, like she doesn't have bangs. But because I had no idea how to draw hair, it does not come off that way. So I decided to go for the pulled back hair look completely, since I think that's what younger me was going for, and I just hope it was because that's what I ended up going with. As a little extra little character trait as well, I gave her a bandage on her nose, since that's such a common anime trope for like sporty characters, is to have just a random bandage on their nose. So for the sprite on this one, I actually did a lot of changes. Asahina's original look, I think the only thing that actually stayed was her eye shape. Everything else I really changed. I elongated her face, since I think Ines has a much longer face than Asahina. Asahina has a very cute baby face, and I wanted something, you know, more adult and sharper looking. Her bangs, you know, she doesn't have bangs. I had to make her hair pulled back. Her hair is completely different with the down ponytail and whatnot. And her outfit too is just completely different than this one. It's a closed collar jumpsuit. Something I could use the sprite for was the placement of the wrinkles on the clothes, because Danganronpa style has very specific way that they draw all of the lines for the wrinkles on clothing. All I really used this sprite for was the wrinkles and the eyes. The rest I made up. I also had a fun time adding her fake ads on her. I went for the Bepsi, which is a very common anime fake ad, and the upside down W for Whackdonald's. She's a race car driver from Germany, so instead of BMW, I went for PMW. And then I just wrote the word burger because I needed a last thing, and I was like, you know what, screw it. She's just gonna have the word burger written on her. So when it came to her colors, again, I wanted the color scheme to be within the same range as the original. Her color was green, so I had to make her green somewhere, but I wanted to keep her blonde since she is this German girl. So instead the green is just in her outfit, which since it's a jumpsuit, I could just make it all one color and then just add maybe another color for some highlights, and then of course the ads have their own color as well. I really like how this one came out. I don't know, it just really looks like a Danganronpa sprite. I think I did a much better job shading the body on this one than I did, especially on Siobhan's. This one just is better. Yeah, and I'm really happy with how Ines came out. So yeah, here she is. Okay, it's time for the last one for the first video in this series. So the final one that we will be working with is the Ultimate Skateboarder, or Ultimate Skater for short. His name was Higamori. He was Japanese. You can tell from his original design that I really wanted him to look like a stoner. There weren't that many skateboarders when I was in high school. That wasn't really like a thing. A lot of people did, just because there wasn't a skate park near where we lived. So if people skateboarded, they would do it just, on the streets. So it was not super common, but being a stoner sure was common. And I think it was a stereotype as well from, a lot of high school movies. The dumb skateboard kid, would be high all the time. So I really wanted to go and push that like super dopey, dumb look that I think I was trying to go for in his original. His old design, he had the beanie and he had this extremely long sweatshirt and then just like a backpack and a white shirt, nothing very unique. So when thinking of how to redesign him, obviously I had to draw him being slouched over. that was the first. And I wanted to keep the backpack because I liked that it was a unique thing that he had. And who knows what substances he's hiding in that thing. And I liked the beanie too. It was very unique. When looking through all my other characters, I think he had a lot of very specific things going for him that were different that I just really wanted to highlight more. So instead of a sweatshirt that was open, I went for a closed one, and I went for one with short sleeves as well. And then for pants, instead of giving him long pants like my old sketches had of him, I really wanted him to have like baggy gym shorts on, like the really long ones for men that go to your knees. I wanted him to look sloppy, and because of that I also redid his hair. At this point, I already had 2 characters with ponytails. I needed a non-ponytail character, and Taiga has a ponytail in his old design. I didn't want that. I needed to get rid of it. So instead I decided to just give him kind of long shoulder length hair that's just wavy and messy and just completely untamed. I also thought it'd be fun to kind of just throw on some bandages on him. He wiped out on his skateboard a couple times and now bandaged himself up. So for his sprite, I went with Rantaro for the base. Like I said, Game 3 wasn't even a concept in 2013 when I made these characters. So now that there are more characters to pull from, it actually really helps because, I have a more variety of personalities than just the first 2 games to take sprite inspiration from. I thought Rantaro would work really well just because he has those heavy lidded eyes on him. Interesting enough with the Game 3 sprites is they actually have more body on them than the last 2 games. Game 1 and Game 2, the sprites kind of cut off around their waist, but in Game 3, all the sprite references have them a lot more full body. There are full body sprites for all these characters, obviously. Those exist, but I was just doing, the waist up ones when you walk up to them and you talk to them. So I just thought that was interesting because it gave me more room to work with. I could see more of his arms than I could in a lot of the other characters. So I got to work on sketching out, the differences. I actually made his eyes even more heavy lidded than Rantaro's. I really wanted to push that look. And I used bangs on Rantaro as the base for his hair because it's kind of exactly what I was going for. I honestly think I could have thrown Soda also into the mix here underneath even Rantaro and had, 2 sprites to work from. I probably should have, specifically because he has the beanie hat, which Soda also has. But, stupid me was lazy and didn't feel like looking up another sprite. So I just stuck with Rantaro and kind of just winged it when it came to the design of the hat and whatnot. Same thing with the sweatshirt. I probably could have used Komaida's sweatshirt hood as a base for what hoods look like. But again, I'm like, whatever, and I winged it. I had fun with this. I also winged placement of the backpack on this and, added the sleeve length to be shorter. I think it ended up working. Since he has more body too, there's a lot more on this than the other ones had. I also added a few more details to just push that Danganronpa look with the random unnecessary trinkets on their body. I gave him a single bracelet. Who knows why he wears it. Put some band-aids on him. I gave him some buttons on his hat. And then I decided to throw a pattern on his sweatshirt. I literally just sketched something completely random with just a bunch of shapes. I tried to look at graffiti that would go on, say, the bottom of a skateboard, because that's a big thing is, designing a skateboard bottom. So that was kind of an inspiration, but really it was random shape. And I just put it over his sweatshirt and I drew the pattern on it. His colors, I again wanted to keep relatively the same. His original color was this like dark maroony color, more purple, I guess you can say, than red actually. But because I wanted to keep the colors the same, I just desaturated his hair a bit. I also desaturated his skin tone. I made him a bit grayer than the original peach color that I had for him. Now there's something about it that kind of makes him look sickly, and I think that fits his character really well. As for the rest, colors were very bright on his old design, so I really wanted to darken him a lot, but also, you know, highlight some of the points. So his hat stayed pretty relatively bright, but it was just a little bit darker than the original. His backpack I just made a bit more of a natural brown, and his sweatshirt I just made darker, and I really pushed the red on it. And I gotta say, I really like how Taiga came out. I'm not sure if it's because I can see more of his body that it just kind of really enforces this bright look, but I don't know, it's really cool. And I'm happy with his new design. He looks like a chill dude, that's for sure. Well, okay, that is going to be it for the first video in this new redesigning series. I hope this was fun to watch. I don't know how interesting it is to watch me create sprites based off of a pre-existing art style. Like, you know, it's not me making a full drawing in, you know, my own style. I do sketch the characters first out just to get an understanding, but the final piece, if you will, is this sprite from a pre-existing series. So I don't know, hopefully it's interesting to watch, and hopefully if you have Danganronpa OCs that you've always wanted to make sprites for, maybe this gave you some tips onto how to really make your sprites. There are just little subtle things about the art style that I kind of picked up on the more I did it. I think by the very end, I could really start pushing farther into my designs and just really going away from some of the sprite looks, and I will later start combining characters to try and get my character out of them. But yeah, this has been fun. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoy a lot of the new designs I made. And who knows, maybe I will end up redoing some of this old story I had. I remember bits and pieces of it, and by that I mean, like, I remember one thing, and it's who the traitor was. And that's it. The rest I have down in notes that I have to dig through because I remember none of it. If you want to see some other work I've done, please be sure to check out some of my other videos. I have another redesign series where I redrew all these characters I had from like 2006, so they're even older than these ones. They're not based off of a pre-existing game. So if you want to watch that series, be sure to click the link in the card above. I think it's a fun series. It was my first attempt at one of these kinds of design series, and there are some things I might do differently now, and you know, there's some information I think I just didn't remember to say when recording the videos, so hopefully my thought process doesn't get lost in translation. Otherwise, I make some other videos, so if you like art content, why don't you stick around for a little longer, huh? All links to my social media as well are in the description, and you can see all of my personal art there as well. So with that, I'm just gonna say, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things that the YouTubers say. Peace.